The information provided is for educational purposes. It is not intended as medical advice or a substitute for medical advice of a physician or other qualified healthcare professional. You should not use this information for diagnosing a health or fitness problem or disease, and you should always consult with a doctor or other healthcare professional for medical advice or information about diagnosis and treatment. So I would like to introduce Dr. Christina Rahm. For those of you who don't know her, she is a scientific researcher, she's a published author with numerous publications, including her own book, Cure the Causes, she's also a principal investigator with IRBs, BODs, and research companies as well. She's researched and lectured globally for events and classes at Johns Hopkins, Harvard, Cleveland Clinic, Wake Forest, Mayo Clinic, and Cornell, just to name a few. She's worked as a medical and clinical research scientist in the pharmaceutical and nutraceutical and biotechnology industries for companies such as Janssen, Johnson & Johnson, Biogen, Biogenidec, UCB, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Alexion. And she's also worked on the corporate side of Pfizer, Biogen, and Janssen, and is currently the chairman of the International Science Nutrition Society and chief science officer for Root Wellness. And she's also has also served as a formulator for several companies and manufacturing labs, including her own. But one of the things that's really extraordinary about Dr. Christina Rahm is her extraordinary mind, her passion for helping others. And in this, she's been influenced by her Native American background and of course her European heritage as well. This has actually influenced her in the health, in health and wellness, in addition to her education from Cornell and Harvard universities in nanotechnology, in pharmaceutical management, nutrition, and of course she has multiple doctorates in education, philosophy, and a Master of Science. But one of the things I think that she really is most proud of is being a mother, a scientist, a wife, a friend, a colleague, and just has such a passion for helping others, and just one of the most incredible colleagues that I've ever worked with, and an incredible friend. So Dr. Christina Rahm, and the floor will be yours in a minute. And of course, I'm Dr. Dori Naerbo, and I'm a researcher, a clinical researcher, and an author of several books. And we don't have to go into all of this stuff here.
Well, I think I will.
No, it's okay. These introductions get so long. And so,
well, I do want to say, a lot of people know you, Dori, from doing the meetings with Clayton, or from stem cell, because you've been in stem cell research, you've been in IT, you've got masters, you've got doctorate degrees, you've written books, you've written publications, but and she's a mother, a grandmother. So Dori has this long list of a career in education. But I'm like Dori, when it all boils down to the end of it, what really matters about Dori is her heart and what she does to give back, and truly is one of the people in my life in a tight circle that I really trust. And I am very thankful, Dori, more than your education, more than your career. If I would have met you and you didn't have all of that, I would still be just as close to you. So thank you for being in my life.
Well, that's my pleasure. And likewise. So today we have a very exciting topic, which is very relevant, which is the cold and flu season and how we can actually integrate the Root products in this season.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about cold and flu, and Dori, please jump in as we always do when we do this, whenever you want. But I did want to point out some stuff, because everyone always asks me when we're getting tons of questions, and everyone asks me, and then we get the science questions at Root about the cold and flu seasons. And actually the flu and a common cold are different. A cold is actually a contagious disease, and a lot of people don't know that. It affects the upper respiratory tract, and then it, of course, causes inflammation in the nose, throat, eyes, and in the tube, so that you can't breathe, and sometimes you feel bad, you're coughing, different things occur. And colds usually are not that are not something that we worry about all the time. Um, Typically, when you have a cold, the doctor sends you home and says, feed the cold. You give it fluids, of course, vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin D3, and zinc, which is in the natural barrier support, really help you, as well as things that are like in Restore and some of the other products that we have at Root. But a cold, even though it's not something that concerns doctors as much unless you have an underlying issue, the cold still can cause problems for people because of the fact that it can lead to a secondary infection. We always have like a primary and then secondary infection. But the flu is something, or influenza, that bothers doctors and scientists more because it's caused by virus A or B, but it changes. And Dori and I have talked about this many times before. People ask me all the time if I get the flu shot. I, being in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, some of the companies I worked for, we actually helped develop the flu shots. But I do not get the flu shot because, for me personally, I understand that the flu season changes. You make the vaccine based on the prior year, but the problem is it changes and mutates. And so when you get the flu shot, it depends on your body whether it will help protect it as far as getting the vaccine for the flu. So I personally don't, but that's my personal choice. A lot of people, like my parents, get it. My sister, I think, does. So everyone has a different opinion about that. But going back to this, it is a virus. We're all worried about viruses right now, and I particularly worry if people have more than one virus, like every scientist and doctor worry about, because your body has to fight a virus pretty hard. So when you give multiple things compound upon it, your body needs extra support. And that's what we're about at Root, is getting rid of the bad things, providing and protecting for the body. This slide is a very simple slide, but I really want to point out that the flu can lead to a serious illness. Dori and I talked about this, and Dori, I hope you don't mind if I bring up your grandson in the croup. Is that okay? Her grandson was coughing with the croup, and was very sick and with respiratory. And I said to Dori, this was something that was a huge concern for me. My son Preston, who actually is helping with the podcast, when he was little, he used to get the flu and then get croup. And then there was one point when he was around the age of 2 that we made it to the hospital, and they had to basically open his airways. And they told us if we wouldn't have gotten there, he probably wouldn't have made it, because he had a secondary complication of asthma. And the reason I'm bringing that up is the flu and colds, regardless of which one the doctor has given you a diagnosis of, you need to understand that there can be complications. And if a child or a person is having problems breathing, do not take that lightly. And Dori, I'd like you to say something about that, because you shared a story with me. And I think it's really important for our community to understand that we are providing and protecting, but we're also educating people. And it is very important during this season that you pay attention to the people around you and make sure they're taken care of. So Dori, can you share that, what happened to you in your life, or a similar situation as far as someone having problems not breathing, and how they do need to get medical attention when that happens?
Oh, wow. I thought about that when I was telling you that story. I hope she doesn't bring that up,
Oh, no.
but so,
No.
it's okay. And it's all right. I could tell it because it is important. And okay, so I was telling Christina the other day that one of the reasons I became a medic and I was working in the hospitals and stuff was because I never wanted to be in a position where I did not know how to save a life. And the reason that was so important to me was because when I was 17 years old, I was in a funeral, and the person that was right next to me, he was a friend. He was one of my best friends. He was my best friend's husband at the time, and during the mass, they had the benediction, and they were doing the smoke. And I remember I walked outside, and he said that he wasn't feeling really well. He was having trouble breathing and stuff like that. And that set him off. And then of course he was upset as well. But during the ride to the cemetery, he had a full blown asthma attack. And I was only 17 years old. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to save him, but I knew that it was serious. And I knew that, his airway was definitely compromised and I couldn't do anything. He died in my arms. That left me with such a psychological, I wouldn't say damage, but it propelled me to go into the field that I went into. So I became an EMT. I was top of my class. I thought I'm never going to be in a situation that I couldn't save a life. And ironically, my children, my first two children, ended up having asthma as very young as infants. Anne, when she was sleeping at night, it was so frightening because it brought back all those memories. And so I couldn't sleep as soon as I hear the coughing. So there is a type of cough, and I think Christine, I told you about that cough, right? There is a cough that kids do when they have asthma, and I would count how many coughs. And so when you have a cold or a flu, this actually can exacerbate that problem. It can tighten up the airways. I have taken my children many times to emergency to get the epinephrine injections and things like that to open the airway. It's the most frightening thing when you have little babies. And then of course Kirsten called me and she said, okay, her Mason had the croup. And of course, we have in Norway, we have a system where you have to go to your primary care physician, which is an hour away from her. They wouldn't take her locally. And of course, she just did what she was told to do. She came all the way down here. And the doctors and the staff at this clinic was like, couldn't believe it that she came all the way down. And she said, like, my gosh, she goes, like, was really serious. They were getting all the medication. He had the breathing treatments. They gave him the steroids. And they said, don't ever wait. It's so dangerous because once the airway closes off, I mean, if you're not right there, I mean, you have no options. They need to be intubated, right? It's very scary and it can happen so fast, just like when my friend died in my arms. I mean, it was literally a few minutes and his airway was compromised. So this is really serious. If you have children with asthma and you get a cold, I mean, my son Eric was this was always an issue. I mean, like I hated this season because of that.
And so what Dori just said was key. It gets exasperated, right? So it's really important. We talk a lot in the root community about the fact that our bodies are under attack, especially right now with all the things going on. You got to support your body, provide and protect. And I think what's important about what Dori said, and then referencing it back to this slide, is people have different symptoms when it comes to the cold and the flu. And a lot of times you don't know which one it is. I'm just going to tell you guys, it's hard to diagnose the flu. Your doctor can give you a test, but sometimes it has a positive or negative result, which means it's not always accurate, just like COVID. And sometimes they'll mistake basically the cold for the flu or the flu for the cold, vice versa. So it's really important to pay attention to your body and to understand that typically when you have a virus that's a flu, it lasts a couple of weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. Most of us know that because of what's happening. And during that time, there's certain amounts of time that you're contagious, but you can actually be contagious during that period, almost that whole period, if you're sneezing, coughing, or have relapse. So you really need to isolate if you have the flu. The cold is something that a lot of us are exposed to. You still need to be careful, but still, it's not usually as bad as the flu. And I think another thing, Dori and I talked about this, my son Crider's been sick, and I think a lot of you guys know, was sick when he was little. And so I get particularly uptight when he gets sick. And I can tell you, Dori said to me, are you giving him chicken noodle soup? Because we learned about that growing up, right? Your mothers give you chicken noodle soup, but we also learned about that at Cornell, how important it is, the chicken broth, to feed someone with the cold or a flu, how it really helps them, that broth. So in the root community, we want to bring you information about our products, but we also want to make sure everyone understands additional information if you don't already. I mean, some of you guys already know that, most of you probably do, but I want to reiterate that some of this common sense stuff that we've done since we were little, it is very important. When you have the cold or flu, giving the body what it needs. And what did they say, Dori? you feed
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I can never get that right. Starve a cold, feed a fever,
yeah,
or
yeah,
is it the other way around? I don't
yeah.
remember.
But you,
But
but
I wanted to back up on what you were saying about the flu vaccine because, like, after okay, everybody knows I've had the heart attack, but so of course your doctor always recommends, oh, get the flu vaccine, right? And I used to do that, but then I had a reaction to the last one. I said, okay, I'm never doing that again. I'm not going to do it. I was in pain for like 2 months afterwards. But one thing I do is the Pneumovac vaccine because that's a 10-year vaccine. That's for pneumonia. That works really well. And for those that are compromised, that's something that you guys should check that out. That's a good vaccine.
yeah, I agree with Dori on that. The regular flu I don't get. I had a reaction to, Dori. In fact, everyone in the family did. The 1 year we got it, I remember I was working at Biogenetic, and most of the people I worked with did not get the flu vaccine because of what we were learning. In the pharmaceutical industry, as people, we understood the percentage of people it helped and the ones that it didn't. Well, I gave my whole family. I just decided I'm going to try it, and I was a lot younger, of course, at that point. I had little kids. I think Kreider was 4 and Merritt was 3. Preston and Duquesne were like 8 and 12. But anyway, every single person in our family got sick, and not just for a small amount of time, but a long period, about a week after. And I was like, that's it. That's the last time I'm doing it. But that's my personal body, and everyone else is going to have a different experience with that. So we're not here to judge. We're here to help people make personal choices with their doctors or with their holistic team around them so that they can take care of their body the best way. And I'm going to go back and say this again. This is your body. You are over your body. You're in charge of it. You are the best expert. It's great to learn as much information as you can, but ultimately it's your decision. So remember that and take care of your body. With that, I'm going to move on to COVID-19 and to talk.
But before you do that, I just wanted to mention that here in Europe, they do the CRP testing here if you have any kind of inflammation. And one of the things that can happen is that you can, maybe your CRP isn't very high, but you can still have a secondary issue going on, even like with the cold and the flu and stuff like that. As you had mentioned earlier, it can go into a bacterial type of problem, right? Where you can end up with strep throat and this kind of stuff. But if your CRP is still relatively low, you could still test positive for strep. And what they don't do here is sometimes, unless you ask them, you have to almost insist on it to get both at the same time, not just have one and not the other. And that way you can rule it out quicker. It happens so much where they have this secondary infection and they don't even know it.
That's great advice, Dori, because they usually don't do that here and they need to. And they don't do it because they just aren't educated on it. It's not part of the standard procedure, but they need to do it. So that's awesome that they do it there. Okay, so we were talking. I was starting to talk about COVID.
Sorry.
That's okay. No. I'm glad you said it because that's really important. And I think if you can request it and your doctor or your insurance or you personally want to pay, that's the best thing to do, because then you can get more of an accurate answer about what's really going on in your body. But Dori's right. You can have, like, I'll give you an example. They came to our house. Kreider had an IV of vitamins and minerals and different things. And he looked at me and goes, Mom, I promise I won't stop taking Restore and the Relive Greens, because he really takes those, but he had stopped taking them for a few days because he was out on the weekend with friends. And it's really important to give your body what it needs to fight, whether it's a cold or a flu or COVID-19, because COVID-19 is actually a virus that is, it infects people, and it can cause, usually mild to moderate respiratory illnesses. I think we all know at this point that not everyone dies from COVID, that it's something that affects everyone differently, but people that are seriously ill can get very sick. We don't claim to cure that at Root. We talk a lot about our job is to protect, provide, and get rid of bad things in the body and provide it with what it needs. But during this talk, we're going to talk about how you guys have in your toolbox things that you can give your body that will really help. I do want to go back to what are the differences in the regular flu and COVID-19. One of the things really is the taste and smell. Another thing is people have more of the nauseousness and vomiting. than they have with the regular flu when they have COVID-19. However, I do want to stress this. You can have the regular flu, like I talked about earlier, and still have nauseousness and vomiting. So sometimes it's really hard for the doctors to tell what is what and what's going on. So the importance is that you're giving your body what it needs while you're fighting a viral or respiratory infection. So we're going to talk a little bit on the next slide about the high risk factors for the respiratory infector. And what we mean by this slide is that you've got when you get a viral upper respiratory infection, or Dori talked about pneumonia as well, there are certain things that it can go into when you have a viral infection that can cause major issues. And there's a high risk group, and then there's other factors that can lead to really things that can cause very serious illness or death. And this slide talks about the risk factors for the viral upper respiratory infector, and that is your chronic lung disease is a high risk, your heart disease like Dori, and Dori is a great spokesperson for how she approaches her illness and how, and I hate to say that, Dori, because you look.
I know, I was going to say.
I'm so sorry I said it like that. I'm like, why did I say it like that?
I don't even relate to that comment.
I know, I don't either. When someone says I've had cancer, I'm like, I'm not sick. I'm
exactly. I'm in denial, full denial.
I get really upset. People don't know this about me, but one of the reasons I don't like to talk a lot about what I've gone through is I feel great and I don't want to focus, on the negative.
Oh, I do too. I get that. Yeah, for sure.
But you're an example because look, Dori, you're like me. You learned from what you went through, and then you've helped your body and your life get better. And with that, you're helping others. But I do want to talk, Dori, because you're very familiar with the high risk people. Your people with HIV, your people with obesity, severe anemia, your high blood pressure, heart disease, kidney disease, chronic lung disease. Of course, when you look at this, just so you guys know, it also talks, we're also pertaining to autoimmune diseases, cancer, everything else, lupus, multiple sclerosis, those are high risk, right? Because your body's already under attack. So when you get a respiratory infection, it can go from bad to worse pretty quickly. So how do you combat that? Well, you can look at the second column, which I think is really important. What are other possible factors? It says lack of important minerals and nutrients. And then weakened immune system due to exposure to pesticides, chemical, and toxins, and all outside environmental factors, including heavy metals, right? Those are all factors that cause someone to, when they get sick, it can elevate very quickly. And that's why it's so important to have solutions and to have things that you can give your body that can help fight that. And that's where the Root community steps in, not just for our personal health and our personal bodies, so that we can share it with other people, our family, our friends, our communities, so that they can help their lives. It would seem like it's basic common sense to get rid of the bad things in your body and provide and protect. But it's not like something kids learned when they were growing up. When you grew up, you learned to brush your teeth, wash your face, wash your hair, put your clothes on. Usually most children are not brought up to protect their body. And definitely not until recently have people been taught to get rid of the heavy metals and to get rid of the bad things in their body, right? They're just taught to do these basic things. But if you really think about our bodies, and Dori, can we go to the next slide? When you really think about our bodies inside, and we talk about this a lot, but there's a living, breathing, acting, talking community. Like we're all out here and we're on this call. We have over 100 people on the call. We're talking, right? We're a community. But inside of your body, your cells are talking. And if there's a virus in your body, that virus is communicating. If there's cancer, the cancer is communicating. If there's bacteria, the bacteria is communicating. And if people can start understanding that and start understanding there are things you can do. There is a way you can control things in your body. That gives hope. And in a time where everyone's scared, there's so many fear factors, it's really important to provide solutions without making promises. And what I mean by that is my personal journey was one that has not been that easy. I have had cancer. I have had Lyme disease. But I also have been able to find different solutions to support my body so it can fight these different things, whether it's the flu or one virus or another or cancer. You've got to give your body what it needs. Dori has done the same thing when it comes to her having heart issues in the past. She gives her body what it needs so she can even become a better version of herself, understanding, both of us understand that we're still going to get sick. And this is something that I have had so many people say to me, Christina, you're on your products. How do you get sick? And my comment is, I'm very thankful to be alive. I'm very thankful to be healthy. I'm very thankful to raise 4 children, to be able to work, 120 hours a week, to be able to have friends and a community and to live. But yes, my body is under constant attack and extra attack because I fall into the column of high risk. Dori falls into the column of high risk. So it is a mission of mine the rest of my life to help me protect my body as well as others. And that's where the root products come in, not making promises of curing anything, right? But giving people solutions so they can provide and protect for their bodies, giving people solutions they can get rid of the bad things. And I think that's why, Dori, one of the reasons both of us have connected so much, because for us, it's not a casual thing. It's a daily thing to be here and to be alive, to be able to raise our families.
Absolutely. It's a blessing. Every day is a blessing.
So I went to a restaurant the other day and I asked someone, how's your day? And and they said, do you really want to know? I said, yeah, I do. It's been a really hard day. And I said, I hate that. And they said, how is your day? And I said, I'm just thankful to be alive. And actually, I had a particularly hard day too, but I wanted so bad. I'm at a restaurant and I wanted so bad to pull out a packet of Restore or Clean Slate or Relive Greens and give it to that person. So when I left the restaurant, I actually handed them a packet. I did not say I was the scientist that developed it. That's irrelevant, really. I mean that, like, so what if you cook something or make something? The real passion we have to have, the real journey we have to have is no matter who made it, no matter who developed it, no matter who worked on it, our job is to give it to people and give them solutions to help their lives, to help their own body. In the United States, we have a government. You guys have governments in your own country. And in those governments, they have people that help. You've got different representatives or different officials that help your president or prime minister or king or queen. And without that help, those kings, queens, presidents, or prime ministers could not run their countries. Our bodies need that help. And at this point, when I just really want to tell you guys are the voice, you guys are the mission, you are the one impacting people around you. And when you hand them a sachet of Restore, of course, I'm kind of addicted to Restore. I think Dori is too, but you're giving them, black seed oil, resveratrol, raspberry turmeric, apple cider vinegar, aloe vera, D-ribose. Okay, what does that mean? That means you're giving them something that cuts the inflammation down and helps with the antioxidants and supports the immune system and protects, there's the word right there, Dori, protects against viruses, bacteria, fungus, parasites, et cetera, et cetera. And again, no one would dream of it being freezing and snowing and cold and sitting their kids out barefoot without a coat, or you know what I mean, or without clothes. But yet somehow we in our minds don't understand how important it is to do that for the inside. And I just want to bring that up because I really want you guys to know how important it is when you're giving someone a packet of Restore because of what it can do to help people. I mean, Dori may have sent her kids out in the cold like that, but
I never send my kids out in the cold. And I make them like cover up their chests when they go out. Yes. And wear good wool all the way.
Oh, I'm teasing Dori.
I know.
But literally we wouldn't dream of that. And this is a great slide right here. And a lot of times we're scared right now as scientists and doctors to even talk about COVID-19 because I'm on podcasts, I'm on interviews, and everyone's disagreeing. And I always go back to this middle ground of peace. And my middle ground of peace is we are here with a mission. We have one mission, is to help with health and wellness, whether it's spiritual, emotional, mental, or physical. And I say this all the time. In the root community, we cannot just be about physical. We have to be around about everything because we're energy. And to make our energy better, we've got to be a good person and continuously offer solutions. When we fail and become mean or do the wrong thing, we have to try to fix it. When our body is sick, we have to give it what it needs. And to protect our bodies, we have to give it, before anything happens, what it needs. And this slide talks about the potential pharmacological benefits of black cumin seed and how it's a promising option for COVID prevention and cure. So there's lots of companies looking at it. We have that, of course, in our products. This study talks about rats and guinea pigs and how they use this product to basically study the antihistamine effects. And what they mean by this is they looked at how the compound and the ingredients and how, from a scientific perspective, it impacted that. And they had very positive results. They also looked at the immune potential properties of human T cells in vitro. And they went through and they looked at, basically, if you summarize what all of that means, is they wanted to see what it activated and what happened and what role it would have with viral and bacterial immune responses. And I want to point that part out. Viral and bacterial, I say this a lot. The thing I was worried about when this virus happened was not just the virus and not really the virus. It was the fact that the virus would probably mutate. That worried me. The initial virus was not as much of a concern of mine, but really the bacterial and the fungal effects, which can then add to parasitic growth, really bothered me. And what I think is so great about this is this particular study, and actually this is not just one study, studies have shown that there are a lot of benefits to black cumin seed. And I think that's why I always tell people, if you're going to take Restore, either use a packet and break it into 3 parts a day so that you're taking things throughout the day if you can, or take 3 packets a day. Most people do not take 3 packets a day, but if you're sick, some of you may need it to really give your body the boost. Why are you laughing, Dori?
Because I take it at least 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night, the whole pack. But I just can't help it because when I open it, I can't just stop. It's like chocolate, right? Okay, I think I told you before. If I'm going to open a thing of chocolate, I'm not going to just take a bite. I'll have the whole thing gone. I just can't help myself.
We cannot go eat chocolate together. I'm the same
no
way.
control. I don't even buy it. I'm not going to buy. I don't buy it anymore.
You know, it's kind of odd since I've started taking Restore, and then especially with the Relive greens, I don't eat chocolate or sweets as much. I still like a bite every now and then, but I think because I'm getting so many nutrients that my body just doesn't like it as much as it used to. I used to sit there on the sofa. I hate to admit this to you all, and just sit and eat chocolate. I loved chocolate. And of course it made me gain weight and it was not good for me. And so it's horrible.
You haven't had Norwegian chocolate yet. I'll have to send you some. Yes,
I have had it and it's very good. I have too. I had it. I brought it back and then I was so mad at myself for bringing it back because there's no point in me just eating more and more of it. It's kind of like croissants in France. I'm like, I love.
Oh my God, those are the best. Yeah.
Or spaghetti in Italy. I mean, I could just live there forever. But anyway. So another thing, the curcumin, we all know that curcumin is in a lot of the ingredients, right? Well, we've got it in Zero In, we've got it in Restore, and curcumin is really, really important. There's all kinds of studies going on, but throughout history, curcumin, black cumin seed have been used as an antiviral agent because they're very, very good at basically helping the body get rid or reduce the symptoms. And if you look at this particular study by Jennings and Park, it talks about the fact that when they gave them curcumin treatments of 50 to 150 milligrams, so of course our products would hit in that amount, it reduced the replication of the virus and lung injury in animal models. And I think that's huge because our goal right now is to be able to combat whatever happens. I have so many WhatsApps and texts and emails where people are asking me, Have you heard about the new variant? Do you know about the different mutations? And my comment, I don't comment what I really want to say that I don't usually say because I don't want to worry people, is in every country, there's different variants. There's different things they're discovering. There's the bird flu, in the UK and Norway. And Dori, when you guys talked about that, we don't have that concern here yet in the United States. Every country, and I'm on the phone with a lot of countries from a scientific medical perspective, has different things happening. Our job has got to be to combat infection and to reduce the symptoms of infection, right? And in one study, this article talks about the mice infected with this particular strain and then fed curcumin. It increased survival and reduced body weight loss and lowered burden in the lung tissue. And really the whole summary of this particular article is how much curcumin can help. There's so many studies. Dori could tell you that. This was just one that we pulled. We have so many studies that talk about all of this and how it helps people. But this is one of them that we wanted to show you guys so you could understand what's happening when you take certain ingredients into the body and what is happening inside the body. When I'm talking about this, I hope you guys the whole time are thinking about, again, the community inside and what you're giving it so that the good cells thrive and the bad cells and the disease and the viruses and bacteria that shouldn't be there, that they go away. That's our goal. So we're going to go on to zero in. And Dori, I love that you actually called me and talked to me about the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, the SSRIs. I, as a psychologist, and then working at Pfizer with Zoloft, and then working at Janssen J&J with risperidone and other products that help, that treated people that were depressed or seriously, persistently mentally ill with bipolar or schizophrenia. I was always someone that knew a lot about the SSRIs and depression and how they could help the body from a mental health perspective. But we're getting ready to show you also how when you really impact serotonin and dopamine, you don't just help the brain. We talk about this a lot as a community. You help the brain, the heart, and the GI, right? Everything is connected. And we're starting to understand that more and more as scientists, but thanks to Dori bringing this up, we want to talk to you guys a little bit today about how Zero In, we know that it helps people support their bodies for performance. We understand that people take it so that they can focus during the day and so that they can get things done. We know that some people are taking it for sexual purposes, performance purposes, a lot of different things to help them focus and perform, right? And because of what it has with the vitamin D and the caffeine and the 12-HBP, as well as the tyrosine, I never say it, and theanine, I don't say those right either. I should say L-theanine, L-tyrosine, velvet bean, pine bark, and turmeric root. Yeah, all of those together. And I want to say this again. I've said this before on videos. Some of those ingredients, actually, you guys, if you take too much, if you took huge amounts, or if you sourced it from the wrong place, those are not positive for people's bodies. Some people's bodies can only take a tiny bit of pine bark and turmeric and velvet bean. Everyone's different. Clayton can take 4. I know people that have taken more than 4. I take 1 a day. But what I do know is it's helping my brain focus more. I personally can testify to that if I don't take it, and Dori, you and I haven't talked that much about Zero In, but for me, if I don't take it and I'm working, it definitely impacts my productivity. And I have to be on. There's no time for me to be sick. There's no time for me not to be on. So it's really important. And I know you guys are the same way because we all have lives that we're in that we have to produce. But that's not the only thing these ingredients help with is focus and performance. So Dori, if you could show the next slide, and maybe you could talk a little bit about it and I could chime in, that will help people understand how this is helping even more. I love this. Do you want me to talk about it, or do you want to tell everyone about why this is?
Oh, well, one of the reasons that I wanted us to talk about this was because it's been in the news lately. And then I started thinking about it. I was thinking like, okay, so taking the SSRIs, I mean, we have the Zero In, right? And those ingredients in Zero In, because we're always talking about mental performance and, in sports and these types of activities and brain fog and things like that. But those ingredients are actually, some of those ingredients are neuroprotective neuroprotective ingredients, right? And so the curcumin or the turmeric, that is also known to affect your serotonin and your dopamine levels as well. It also helps to for that. Also with the muciniparins also helps as well. So with this study, I thought this was really interesting here because serotonin actually regulates inflammation and immunity by acting on those receptors, right? The serotonin receptors, and they're expressed differently in through the immune cells. And so it's really important, the serotonin, in the gut, that connection, like you were talking about earlier, how this connection works with the brain, and the gut. These two go together. So, did you want to say anything about this? Because this is all about the pro-inflammatory cytokines, and I thought it was interesting because this is like it's all over the news lately about this. And I'll show you another study in a minute.
Yeah. So just so you guys know, and I think I've said this before, when you're at a pharmaceutical company and you're studying a drug or you're launching a drug, you go after one indication. So either depression, anxiety, one thing like Zithromax, they went after bronchitis at first, and then later went after sinusitis, and then later tried to do pneumonia. You don't launch a drug and say this works in 10 things, right? So SSRIs were used for, people that had depression initially. That's why they were launched. And they did understand that the cytokines, that these products were able to reduce the cytokines in the study, but they didn't go after that indication for a virus or bacteria. I'm not shocked that they help people. People that are on SSRIs, we know, and we'll show this in the next slide, that they were significantly less likely to die of COVID related illnesses and symptoms because they think, well, the only difference they could find in the studies were these SSRIs. And so, we don't want to live on SSRIs unless we have to, right? Because we know that when you go off of them, they can have addictive qualities where it's hard to titrate off the drug. So one of the things that I just want to bring up is it's doing the same kind of reuptake inhibitors. An SSRI does a very similar action as what 0N was made to perform, right? Only from a natural perspective. So I think it's really important. I have so many people say to me, why in the root community does it seem like that when people get COVID, they do better? Or when people have something I've had a lot of people, guys, lately say they didn't want to get the vaccine. They had to get the vaccine for work, and they took the clean slate, took the other products, and they made it through what they were going through because of it. Dori knows this. There's a situation that we're both working in with some countries where someone was very upset because they said, they were worried about us studying things when it pertained to a virus when we're just doing natural supplements. And my comment to Dori was this: here's the deal. We're on this mission, and you guys, I know I keep saying the same thing, but we're on a mission for health and wellness. Our job is to give the body what it needs so that when it does come down with the virus, that it can fight it, so that the inflammation goes down, the antioxidants go up, and the body is able to defend itself. That's our mission. And we want to do that in a natural way. We're not saying that the other way, as far as vaccines or antibiotics, don't work. Sometimes those things are needed, right? But what we are saying is there's enough data out there about curcumin, black cumin seed, theanine, L-arginine. I could go on, where we know that it helps people, right? And that's what I really want to bring up and discuss. So Dori, I'll let you go over the next slide and I can add into that. I think I skipped ahead a little bit about the UCSF study, but we can.
Oh, no, it's okay. I thought this was interesting because I didn't really want to focus on, SSRIs or even the COVID for that matter. But and so I started thinking about like, okay, well, what's actually going on? What's happening here? And why do they need it? Because, I always like to know why. And here, this study here is talking about that it's affecting there's alterations between both the dopamine and the serotonin pathways, the pathophysiology of that. So this virus is actually affecting the dopamine and serotonin. I mean, can you imagine getting the news anyways? I mean, you would be like, I think I might be like, maybe I would probably be depressed, but I probably wouldn't be because I'm on so much zero in anyways. I mean, it really makes a big difference, the zero in. But so it causes, here you can see here the neurotransmission. They're talking about dysfunction and dysregulation. And this is associated with the alterations of melatonin, which is, what, helps to produce the serotonin. So this just shows here that it demonstrates basically the viral infections with the subsequent cytokine storm, which we talked about before. This is, the inflammation that happens. And this is suppressing the serotonin and the melatonin availability. This is really key to understand that with the zero in, this can help augment that.
Right. And I think just to point out to you guys, I'm sure have already talked about this and Dori talked about it just then a little bit, but a lot of people don't know that when you have a depletion of serotonin or when that pathway is impacted negatively, that then you don't have enough melatonin, which is why a lot of people with depression and anxiety can't sleep, right? They think it's because they're worried, they can't sleep, but a lot of it is because their body does not have enough serotonin and they can't produce melatonin, which helps the body sleep. And we know that that these SSRIs, right, impact that in a positive way as far as serotonin. So it makes sense that if you can give the body a natural product where it can produce a serotonin, that it will produce better melatonin, which is why a lot of people on zero in are known to sleep better. For me, I have to take it in the morning because, and it has helped me sleep better. So I want to be really clear when I say this. I take it in the morning. If you ask me, since I've been on it, do I sleep better? Absolutely. But for my body, the way I'm regulating, it's helping with the serotonin during the day, right? Which helps the melatonin be produced. So when it's time to go to sleep, I'm tired and I want to go to bed. And subsequently, we're saying in these slides is that there's studies now that are showing the impact of that and the pathway of the dopamine and serotonin and how if you can help the body produce that in the right way, it has a positive impact on the pathology of COVID and other viruses. So I think it's really important to understand that. And I think it's important to understand that there's been multiple studies. There's been a large analysis. I think it's on the next slide. I'm not sure if we kept it in, Dori, but the analysis was able to show that in 87 health centers, they were able to see a significant difference in the likelihood of a person to die from COVID-19. So it's really important that the body has it. So whether you're on an SSRI or zero in or other products, we do know there's information that points us to the fact that they can help the body deal with the virus like this and be able to overcome some of the symptoms. Again, not making claims, just giving you guys data so that you understand why maybe we're having good results in the root community as it pertains to protecting our bodies.
Well, and also we didn't even talk about what about the vitamin D that's in it as well.
Oh yeah,
is a major thing, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that we're going that during the winter, especially where we're at here up in the north, with the light, and this is another issue, with your circadian rhythm and all these issues. And so this is, I think I've told you, probably, maybe many of you probably know this, but I, have this, I have like a light therapy, right, for SAD, for SADS. And so for the seasonal affective disorder, but since I've started with the zero in, I haven't used it at all. I mean, I haven't had my light on for 2 years. That's how good this is. So I think that's pretty significant.
A lot of people tell me that, Dori. I'm glad you brought it up.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me, and I always, I think I shared this with you. I did a podcast with a guy that has 2 million followers on Facebook and 20 million total last week. Or was it last week? What day are we in? I think it was this week. Anyway, I'm sorry. My time just bleeds in. But really, he was telling me about a very important person and then also a general who had used these products, both of them famous people with a lot of money, and how they had helped them. And I said, which is what I hope we all say when someone tells us a story that where, you guys have helped people by sharing these with people. I just said, well, I hope that we did some small part, because that's our job here, right? To give different pieces of something to people so they can support their body. And of course, we're going into the probably most talked about product at Root, which is Clean Slate. Many of you guys know that I had formulated the product before I was even at Root years ago. It is the most litigious product I can even talk about, because everyone wants this product. There's different companies that have similar products, I believe. I don't think there's any way that they use polarization, fracking, and different types of levels like we did. And then when I came over in March, we did add the components, which I don't know how much we've shared with you guys, but we've made it stronger. I made sure that we embedded it with trace minerals as well as the vitamin C. And it was very important to me because I wanted to make sure that when people took it, they were eradicating the bad things out, reducing the inflammation, protecting the immune system, and providing for the body. And that's what we've done with this amazing product that we're all working on together. So Clean Slate is something that's instrumental, especially I think during this time, to help people with their bodies. And one of the things Dori just talked about was vitamin C and the sun. With vitamin D, vitamin C, and all the things associated with getting the sun, being out, being active. But one of the things we don't talk about enough is as we age, how there's a depletion of this, and during different seasons, how there's a depletion, and how important it is to provide our bodies with this. I wish when we launched Root, we would have launched natural barrier support, which has a combination of the zinc, the vitamin D3, and the vitamin C. But we were able to put the vitamin C into zinc, or I was able to, and then I was able to put it into the zero N for vitamin D. My reasons for doing that, though, just so everyone know, what I was trying to make a catalyst so it would be more bioavailable and go into the system at the same time supporting the body. A lot of people have come to me and said, why does it say vitamin C, on the label? It's one of the most important parts of the product. If you look at the analysis after the product's done, you don't see the zeolite, you see the silica, and you see the vitamin C. And again, being able to create a product that I knew would help people. I don't think I was prepared for the fact that it would be a product that everybody, all of the competitors would want, and it would become this topic of discussion between all these companies. What I wanted to do is not talk bad about any of the competitors, but to provide a solution for you all. And I want to say this before we go in a little bit into the vitamin C. When you guys are talking to groups, I've said this, I've been on the science, medical, and clinical side of companies. I've also been on the sales and marketing. Dori, I think we're the same, right? The two of us have been involved in like all those aspects of different companies. Me, I was focused, for a long time on pharmaceutical and biotech. One of the things I learned that's always been really important to me is when you're trying to share a story or have a doctor or a patient use a product or a customer, you don't want to talk negatively about the competitors. You want to talk positively about what your product offers. And then you can say, I'm not sure if they offer this or if it's done the right way, but our goal is to shine light on what we have so that we can share it. And I really want us to always focus on that, because we will lose, and I want to say this, we will lose someone we could help by talking bad about their products or their lives. We will lose people. And what that means to me is we won't help as many people. If we can share the light and share what our message is without cutting other groups down and other products down, then we will help more people. And I mean that. That's very, very important to me. I try to teach my kids that. I want our community to know that. And of course, sometimes we have to point out how a product we don't believe works, or how we have to say, this is not beneficial to someone in our opinion, but we really want to focus on our product. And so for today, I really want you guys to look at this. This is a meta-analysis of 9 randomized controlled trials. We have a very powerful vitamin C that we don't talk about enough in Clean Slate. Of course, we also have it in the natural barrier support, but it was really important to me to source a pure source. And I'm going to say this. I don't know if people know this. I've never talked about this publicly. When you source a vitamin, you get a report and it tells you what concentration of the vitamin is in the product. It also says if there's iron, if there's lead, if there's mercury. Some people can source vitamins that were actually made that have harmful ingredients in them. And I want you guys to feel very good about the product that you have because it has a type of vitamin C that's pure that really helps the body and helps the body actually use the clean slate to eradicate things and again protect. This particular meta-analysis talks about even 1 gram a day of vitamin C can shorten a cold and in 8% of the adults and in children by 18%. So when someone asks me, can kids take clean slate? My answer is absolutely yes. And again, pointing to this is something that really helps with the symptoms, but helps with the overall body. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Dori, but it's vitamin C to me cannot be overstated.
Oh, I love vitamin C.
So I think the next slide is, we're talking about the antiviral properties of Clino. And you guys probably know this. Clino has been found to really help with a lot of different things. This particular article talks about different viral suspensions that were treated with micronized Clino. A micronized Clino means micro, like small. Some people use nanoemulsions. There's different words you can use. I think I've told you guys, I use nanotechnology developing products. I don't like to make claims about liposomes. I don't like to make claims about nanoparticles. And the reason for that is there's FDA guidelines. You've got to be very, very careful. It's really hard to measure it anyway, even in a pharmaceutical product, but I do use different methods so that when I'm making these products, they can be more bioavailable for the body. But if you look at this particular study and this information, it talks about when they used the micronized Clino with ranging from 0.5 to 50 milligrams per milliliter, the human adenovirus, which 5 or herpes complex virus type 1, and human enterovirus, which I never say that right, Dori, you may have to correct me, were used in the antiviral assays. If you look at the overall article and what we're trying to point out here, what this is saying is that when they used certain types of microclino or zeolite, or starting from that particular formulation, it was able to induce a inhibitory effect upon a viral proliferation. So I want to stop and I want to explain that. When a virus proliferates and it grows, if you can stop and inhibit that sequencing, it just gradually dies. So you have these spike proteins like we all know about that we all talk about. And when a virus starts communicating and picking up the phone, your job is to lower that communication or cut it off, right? Inhibit it so it doesn't work. So that's one of the reasons for me when people ask me, what do I need to take? And I'm like, please tell me you're taking clean slate. Whether you have a vaccine or not, we know that you can still get COVID. Whether you have a vaccine or not, we know you can still get the flu, right? So we've got to give the body the protection it needs. So while it's fighting this fight, regardless of personal opinion, regardless of belief, we're helping people. And that's our job. So when all the fighting starts going on, I stop everyone and I say, our job is to heal, to help, and let's do this without arguing. And so anyway, I love this particular slide, and hopefully you guys can share it with a lot of your customers and people all over. Now we get to the relive greens. And of course, I have a very powerful story, I think, when it comes to this because of what I've been through in my life. It's very important to me to take this product. It has so many great ingredients, and I want to make sure you guys know they were sourced in a way so that we could make sure there wasn't gluten. It was sourced in a way so that we could protect people's body. Adding the bacteria to it was very, very important to me so we could help with the pre and probiotic, and it's at 1 billion. So there's a lot of great ingredients packed in this product. I mean, you can take anywhere from 1/3 to 1 teaspoon. If anyone's worried about greens because they're allergic to broccoli or they're allergic to grass, be very careful, consult with a doctor. A lot of doctors, just so you guys know, and even scientists don't understand sourcing because they haven't worked in a lab. A lot of your functional medicine, it's not that they're wrong, it's that they haven't studied it. If you can source it in a way where it's made before it actually gets to full adulthood, you can make sure that you are sourcing it so you don't have the gluten. And I was very careful. The product, Clay came to me and said, can we cut the price down? Same thing with Restore. Those two products, that was asked repetitively. My answer was no. This product needs to be given to people the way it is. And we won't be able to help everyone with this product, but we'll be able to help significant amounts of people because the immune system needs greens. The immune system needs the body to be healthy, and it needs to have food. And these particular ingredients do not just provide nutrients, vitamins, minerals, protein, everything, which we're going to get into a full talk about that later. These ingredients are there to speed up the metabolism, to speed up the process so that your body has the inflammation go down and so that you have more support. It's a fast product. What do I mean by that? That means you're going to be able to see pretty immediate results when you use this product. Dori, have you used it yet?
It's so funny.
It's the one thing jealous. Hey, it's my one thing over you now.
You just wait. I think I ordered 10 bottles.
I really wish everyone could try this product. I really wish your children could be on it and your family and your friends, because I think it will significantly help people. Dori knows I throw it in her face all the time.
I know. So mean to me.
So we have shipped it over to Europe. So anyway, and I think the next slide talks about Lactobacillus acidophilus, which is the bacteria that was used. And I've done prebiotics and probiotics, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this. They have a lot of bacteria in it, right? I've done a lot with a lot of different ingredients. I chose this because I wanted it to activate the innate immunity. I really wanted something to go along with the greens that could really help people and could help fight in the lungs, in the stomach, in the brain by supporting it. And this particular study talks about investigating the antiviral effects of both live and non-live lactobacillus in mouse models infected with the influenza virus H1N1, sorry. And it talks about how by the 6th day it repressed the virus, and it suggests that the pre-treatment of this have potentials to combat influenza. Which, let's go back to this. We're going to be exposed to things. We don't even know anymore what virus or what variant. There's not accurate testing. We don't know which type of the flu. We're going to be exposed to things. So our goal is to provide for this body and protect it. And this study shows that by using this particular ingredient, it can help with the potential to combat different viral infections. So I think that's what the importance of this is for you guys to know. And then the next slide goes into really talking about spirulina. And you guys know this, and you've heard my story about me having cancer and being sick and how I use spirulina as well as other greens to really help my body fight things in a natural way. Spirulina does not taste great. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know why this particular product, I love the taste, and it may be because I have such a great memory of how it helped me with my health that I don't mind the green taste, because someone said, this tastes like grass. I said, well, it's pure greens. I mean, it's pure greens, micronized in a micro way so that they can be available to the body. And spirulina is known to help a lot of things. I researched it, of course, because I was worried about my brain and the tumor, and I had a spinal tumor. I was trying to really combat those things. The spirulina is known to really inhibit influenza viruses and the replication. So again, that's your goal. You're going to cut off the replication and you reduce the virus so that you can kill it, right? It's we either step in and have the good side win, or vice versa. So our job is to really help reduce the symptoms, help with the early symptoms. And of course, what would be even better is to put up a blockade so you never even get it. That's our goal. We can't have 100% efficacy. We don't have all the studies done on this. We don't know the end result. We can't claim things. What we do know is how this particular ingredient, if sourced right and manufactured in the right way, can help with everything from mortality to morbidity and supporting the body. Again, we can't make that claim. We're showing you guys the information. We want you to understand that spirulina has a long range, a very broad range of being able to help a lot of different things, including viruses. So we've already talked a little bit about the natural barrier support. I tell you guys, I put it in sometimes just 1/3 of a teaspoon in with my net greens. Yesterday, I think I added the Restore to it as well. It's really important to have the zinc, vitamin D3, and vitamin C. In fact, when all this stuff started happening with the current pandemic, I was actually working with a COVID-19 emergency authorization company. And we were working on products to try to help with what was going on. One of the things that we kept talking about with our treatment was we wanted to make sure people were on supplements and vitamins. And the one thing that I think most people will agree on in the scientific medical community is zinc, vitamin D3, and vitamin C are something everyone needs to be on. I mean, Dori, that's like the one level ground when I'm doing these interviews and podcasts we don't argue on. Like we all agree how important it is to the body. And again, it's a basic, right? Mm-hmm. It's like brushing your teeth. It's something you should take. And I think what's amazing is we're able to offer a product that's cheaper than any other product that I've been able to find because it can last 3 months and it has very strong, pure ingredients in it. And that's something that's very important to the root community.
Absolutely. I'm the nice thing about this is now I can stop taking the ones I'm taking because it's all, separate. So.
Yeah. Well, I had Mimi was in the office and she was one of my good friends and she was saying, and I know I've mentioned this to you, Dori, that she takes vitamin C separately, vitamin D and zinc, each one of those separately. And
yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Because I don't have this stuff.
I did too. I mean, I have a company where I made for doctors' offices the vitamin D3, zinc, and C all separately. I think they were charging $39 a bottle for a month for each one. So people are paying, $120 a month for these vitamins that I made. I mean, I don't tell people what to charge, and then that are being sold in doctors' offices. And this formula was made how I wanted to make it. I wanted something that people could put in orange juice or put in, with the greens or could do to give a child, because I've explained this to you all before. I have a really hard time swallowing a lot of pills. It's really hard for me. So when I have this handful of pills, I don't take it because I'm like, I can't take all this. And then I'll have to take the rest the next day. So what I was doing was splitting up D, zinc, and C into 3 different days because I couldn't take everything. And that's why, like with the Restore and with the Clean Slate and a lot of our products, I don't want to have pills for everything. I'm trying to make different delivery mechanisms. Like one of the things I'm working on right now is a strip that you put on your tongue, because I want different ways people take all the things and the support for their body where they're not dreading it every day.
Oh, I love the strips. That'll be good.
Yeah. So the next 2 to 3 slides talk about how vitamin D, zinc, and vitamin C help. We've talked a lot about vitamin C. Vitamin D, we know can help reduce the risk of influenza and COVID-19 infection and deaths. There's lots of articles on it on NIH, PubMed. There's lots of people that speak about it. It's really important. And we have vitamin D3 in a couple of our products. It's important because it helps with the cytokine storm. And that's what happens. You get the virus and the cytokine storm happens and the inflammation, and then the body just can't handle it. So it's really important to try to decrease this storm that's negative. There's always positive storms and there's negatives, right? We want to reduce it so that the body thrives and so the body's not under stress. Sometimes that's hard for people to understand. And Dori, I know we took some of the same classes at Cornell, and they talk about the fact that it's really good sometimes to have stress and the body is in overdrive, right? Because it can help your body fight things. But the problem is if it's in that stress for a long period of time, the body can't handle it. When it comes to vitamin D helps with a lot of things, including stress, but it helps with the reduction of the inflammation and it helps support the body. There's a lot of words in this talking about the T helper cell. It does help with that. It helps basically interfere with things, guys, so that it blocks it so the body is able to function appropriately. And I've always had a problem with vitamin D. My body constantly, you probably do too, right, Dori? If you're needing to be.
Oh, well, actually, I don't. My girls do, but here in Norway, they recommend the fish oil. But I've been up on my vitamin D, and so I had my lab work done, and they were really surprised at how much vitamin D I had. They said I almost have too much. I'm thinking, no, I don't have too. I don't have too much. I'm good. So it's really important, especially now in the wintertime. This is when people's vitamin D levels actually fall. So it's important to be supplemented with the vitamin D.
Yeah, I don't right now, but I used to with vitamin D. I used to have a major problem, and I'm so glad that we have the natural barrier support now that people can have, that they get that in there, as well as Zero N, of course, has the vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and then zinc for a common cold. Okay, so guys, there's some articles out there that talks about zinc and how zinc is not helpful for COVID-19 and for certain viruses. I will tell you overall, if you use the right zinc and you are using the right ingredients in zinc, and again, not all vitamin zinc is the same, not all vitamin C is the same, but if you use it, it does help with the common cold. It can also help with viruses. Some people think it can feed a virus. That's not true. There's selected studies that show that it can, that too much zinc can cause issues. I'm going to say it again, too much of anything can cause issues, right? So please don't read an article and misinterpret it. I really want you guys to understand that, the level of vitamin C, vitamin D3, and zinc that's provided in the natural barrier support is provided in a format for a reason. It's provided in a format just so you guys know. So if you guys took more, it would still be okay, but it gives your body the support it needs at the right milligrams so that your body is able to protect itself and provide for itself in the best way possible. So this particular PubMed article talked about zinc administered within 24 hours of an onset of symptoms. And it talks about how it reduces the duration of the common cold in healthy people, and at a dose of less than or
Greater than 75
greater than, I'm
milligrams.
sorry, Ted walked in, greater than or more. So I really, really hope during every time of the year, people are able to take these basic vitamins. And I'm glad that we have it to offer to the whole community. Vitamin C, again, we know this, we've read about it, but guys, you got to live it. You got to give the body what it needs. When my son came to me and said, Mom, I know I should be taking this, I should never stop taking these products, he's right. It's harder sometimes to help teenagers than it is to help a small child, because Dori can testify to this. When a child is a teenager, they have a car, they leave. The last thing they're really worried about are their bodies, right? When you have kids, you can give them things and they don't know. They take what you give them. So if you guys can somehow do what I'm trying to do with my children, none of us are perfect, but we just have to keep trying, and let your kids know that you're trying to help their bodies be better so they can be the best they can be of who they are. That's your goal. When you help your friends and families with these products, again, it's going to be hard. You're not going to really run into a lot of arguments when it comes to the natural barrier support, because everybody needs it. The other products, you're going to have to educate more and people on. And I'm definitely not the best salesperson. I'm a scientist, but I just want to end this by saying what I love about this Root community, and then I'm sure Dori has some things to say, is I love the fact that that this community is we're not all scientists, we're not all salespeople, but we're in this together to help each other to find the right path to really provide these solutions. And I think that we don't have all the perfect answers, but we are getting there as far as being able to touch more and more people where we can help them. And if we all just remember that, that will help us not get discouraged, and that will help us work even harder, because even if you save one person, or even if you help one person, because we're not allowed to say we save anyone, you're just helping people, right? If you help one person, that one person touches hundreds of thousands of people during their lifetime, millions of people. So that one person, you could be the solution that gives them the answers so that they are able to do what they were meant to do for their lives. And so I want to say another thank you again for what you guys are doing as we do this journey together. I'm very thankful for this group, and I know that we have lots of questions. I was trying to answer as many as I could while we were talking, but I think that we will get to those even more on the next call. We're trying to end these after an hour, and I apologize. I know Clayton goes on he likes to talk, so he goes he goes a lot longer than me. I keep saying, Clay,
10 more minutes and you'll be in the Clayton realm.
No way, Dori. Do not put me in there.
We're going to end this call now. We have to let people go. Okay.
He makes people laugh though. I'm too serious. You guys, I was class clown in high school. I don't know what happened.
Oh, you're kidding. That's so funny. Okay.
Yeah, I was.
I'll have to remember that next time. Next time when I'm introducing you, something I know about you being a class clown.
Yeah, I was in the yearbook, class clown. I was.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that funny?
So funny.
Yeah.
That is.
Anyway,
so I'm just going through the questions really quick. Is there anything here? Did you want to take a few questions?
Sure.
We can take a few. Okay, there was a question about vitamin K2, why we didn't put that in, why you didn't put that in, the K2.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm big into vitamin K and vitamin D being used together. The reason I didn't is because some people cannot tolerate vitamin K as well. Mm-hmm. And I actually have a vitamin K formula. I actually did one version of this that did have the vitamin K, which we could release actually. I can't, don't tell Clayton and Ted I said that because they're going to say we can't release everything. But I released this one. I released this one first because I wanted just the basics that I thought the most people could take. And over the last week, we've had over 10 new products arrive that I've worked on. And aside from the Relive Greens and the natural barrier support. So I've been working on a lot of things. You guys know I've been working on patents, but also I've been working on formulas. And we're just trying to decide what we can release because it's impossible to release to so many countries, everything at once. But believe me, I do take vitamin K. I think it's very important. It's the newest vitamin, but some people can't tolerate it as well. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't put it in this. I just wanted to be able to give people the basics for now. But we do have another one that I worked on where I did have the vitamin K in it.
And some people could also be on blood thinners too, so they wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, that's why, Dori, I hate because we have turmeric, you know what I mean? And we have some and then the greens, I just didn't want to add another thing where we lost a huge population that we could help.
Yeah. So, okay, let me see. What's the source of your vitamin D3, lanolin or a vegan source?
Vegan.
Okay. And let's see here. There was something. Are the products gluten-free?
We do gluten-free. I'm not, but I will tell you this. And we do, we have a lot of vegan products, but I want everyone to know, like I have two formulas of collagen, colostrum, four types of collagen that I made for the root community. And one is collagen, colostrum, and Clino that I made, which no one's ever done before. I made for the root community. And of course, collagen and colostrum, you guys know that those are from different sources, and we're not a vegan company. I understand that some people want it to be vegan. Most of our stuff is vegan. Most of our stuff is gluten-free. So that answers yes, but that's not our goal to be a vegan gluten-free company. We are trying to help as many people as possible. And I'm not discrediting. I understand some people, including me, don't do well with gluten at all. I get very sick with gluten. I've gotten worse and worse the older I've gotten. I like to do as much vegan as possible. Clayton likes to eat as much meat as possible. I like vegan things, but I also do have meat. Dori, it's kind of like, I don't mean to get off the topic, but I did want everyone to know we do the best we can. We typically don't go back and change products because we know there are a few people that can't take them, because we could pick any product we have and not everybody can take it. and I don't know if people know that, Dori, but we do the best we can, but we can't make everyone happy when it comes to those questions. But at this point, I have kept things gluten-free, and I have really focused on vegan formulas as much as possible, because for me, the more I can do on that format, the better. I wasn't able to do that on some of the products that we have coming out, because in order to source it where it helps the most people, there are going to be some things that we will release that won't be completely vegan in the future.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that we should probably end the call so that we don't get into the Clayton realm. And we have five minutes for that, and then you'll be there. So
nope. I'm not going to argue with him about it. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you guys being on the call, and I love this is my favorite call of the week. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you everyone for showing up and supporting us, and it's an amazing adventure. So to bring health and wellness to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful day, everyone.